Very nice. Well, hello, yoga friends, and welcome to week 1 of Yoga for Grief, Navigating Life After Loss. We're coming into this practice with the intention of releasing emotions as they're held in the body. We're going to be working with the meridian system in the body, where in Chinese medicine we learn that each of the meridians that are associated with our organs hold different emotions. Each week of this practice we'll be talking about a different stage of grief as outlined in a really popular book, The 5 Stages of Grief by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. When I was going through my yoga teacher training for yoga therapy, I initially designed this program to balance the meridians as they are associated with these 5 stages of grief. Through my practice and through teaching this workshop and through learning on my own and processing my own grief and with my own losses, it's obvious there are more than 5 stages of grief. Even Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who was basically the pioneer of this work, admits that there are more stages of grief than just the 5. They don't come in any particular order. You might move through the different stages of grief and think you're done, and then they come back and repeat themselves, not in any particular order. But I want you to know that our yoga practice helps us to move through these times with a little more grace and ease, if you will. Starting to have this deep trust within yourself that we learn through our yoga practice will help you immensely. Learning to reconnect with the breath, that's been my biggest lifesaver, and so it's something that that I am very passionate about sharing with others. And I would just encourage you to let the process unfold. You know, the only way out of grief is through it, but I also know that depending on the depth of your loss, the connection to whatever it is that you have lost or you're letting go of, that can be a lifetime. It can be a lifetime process. And so, you know, there's no magic bullet, there's no magic pill that's going to erase it all, but certainly our yoga practice can really help us to make the journey a lot more bearable. So thank you so much for being here. This week, we are talking about the first stage of grief, which is denial. There's also another stage of grief called bargaining, and I'm combining the two for the purpose of this workshop, because I think that bargaining is closely connected to denial. With denial and bargaining, there's a tendency to not really want to admit that we have lost what we've lost. And so I could talk for a while about this, but I'm just going to be kind of put it in a nutshell. For me, the way that I experienced denial was when my mom was sick. She had stage 4 ovarian cancer, and during her illness and during her ultimate passing, I had to kind of power through, because I still had to go to work every day. I still had to keep my household running. I still had to be present for my family. I had to be a support. I had to be a support for my siblings and my stepdad. And so there was that tendency to hold off on really allowing myself to grieve and feel sad, because I had to keep showing up for myself and for others. Denial is, we do that sometimes to just help ourselves get through it, and it's a survival mode, and that's okay. And that's just the way it is, you know, just the way life is. But if we don't actually step back at some point and allow ourselves to really feel what we feel connected to the loss, most likely a deep sense of sadness, then those feelings, this denial will be held in our body. And as a result, I'm going to talk about the kidney meridian in this week's practice. We're going to balance the kidney meridian, because in Chinese medicine, we learn that the kidney meridian holds fear and anxiety. When the kidney meridian is out of balance, we feel fearful. We maybe even feel a little paranoid. We feel a lack of self-worth, and there's caution around everything. Physically, when the kidney meridian is out of balance, we might experience low back pain. It might present as knee pain. It might present as fatigue or exhaustion. You might notice short or shallow breath, that stress breathing, a feeling of fear in the gut, or even physically losing your hair, like hair loss or graying of the hair. So, there's all kinds of different ways that it presents in the body when the kidney meridian is out of balance. The kidney meridian gets taxed when we are powering through, work hard, play hard, go, 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 keep ourselves busy so that we don't have to be still and really feel into what is being called for us to feel into. So when we balance the kidney meridian, we feel a deeper sense of confidence and we feel more willing to move forward. We have more willpower, we have clarity, and we feel more courageous. So in our practice this week, we'll be talking about that, and there'll be opportunities with your homework and your journaling practice to practice into this a little bit more. The kidney meridian is supported when we slow down, when we are intentional about relaxation. And then also just a little note that will be part of your homework this week as well, is the kidneys are associated with the element of water. And so when we are well hydrated, our kidney meridian is flowing more easily, flushing out any toxins and getting rid of impurities. And so, one more reason, all the more reason to remain really well hydrated. So we'll talk about that in our homework this week. So to start our practice, I'm going to have us do a few sigh of relief breaths, just to get into starting to open up the lungs and starting to activate that sigh of relief breath to really let go. We let go with our exhale. I'll lead you through some breathing practices. We'll do some stretching. There are going to be a few specific poses that are really good for balancing the kidney meridian. I'll throw some other movements in the practice. Once you move through this practice, you'll get the recording of the video, and then you can watch the whole video over and over again, or you can also use the list of poses that I'll provide in the email to just practice those poses with the intention of balancing the kidney meridian. So come to a comfortable seat. If it feels uncomfortable for you to sit flat on the floor, you could have a yoga blanket or a pretty thick towel and sit on top of that. So I'll go ahead and sit up. When we elevate the hips, it helps us to sit a little taller with a little less effort. And so just come into a comfortable seat and notice yourself grounded. We'll inhale and lift the arms overhead, reach and stretch. And on the exhale, we'll exhale through an open mouth with a sigh. We're going to do that a couple more times. With the inhale, we'll breathe in through the nose. Hands touch at the top, exhale. Let's do 2 more like that. A deep breath as we lift, reach and stretch. Exhale. And once more. Inhale, reach and lift. Exhale. Let the hands rest lightly onto our knees. Close your eyes, sit tall. And now we'll take the breath in and out of our nose. And just notice the breath as it comes into your body. And notice the breath as it leaves your body. As you inhale, give your full attention to the inhale. And notice when it feels like your inhale is complete, can you invite a little more breath in to your body? Hold it in slightly at the top, and then exhale through the nose. Give your full attention to the exhale. And when it feels like the exhale is complete, gently coax a little more breath out of the body, so all of the breath comes out. You can hold the breath out slightly at the bottom and repeat that breath cycle for a few more times. Longer, deeper inhale than usual. Holding slightly at the top, allowing for a slower, more complete exhale than usual. Holding out slightly at the bottom. We'll just take a moment to notice ourselves here at the beginning of our practice. Notice and acknowledge with curiosity rather than judgment. Where are you feeling tension in your body? Where are you feeling some tightness or discomfort? Just checking in. Breathing. And now we'll check in with our energetic body. Our thoughts, our mood, our attitude. What did you bring to your yoga mat today? Is there room for adjustment there? And then as we consider our energetic body as it applies to the kidney meridian, where in your life do you feel some anxiety? Is there something that you're fearful of? And then just notice what comes up for you. Maybe it's difficult for you to put a finger on it, but it's just an overall sensation of fear and anxiety. That's all right. We just start to notice. In order to make change, to create change, there must be effort. And in order to put forth effort, we must know how to direct ourselves. So just notice yourself, a whole lot of kindness and compassion as we begin our yoga practice this morning. Nice. And you can let your eyes softly open. We'll create a little bit of movement in the body before we start to hold still. On our inhale, we'll lift up and overhead, interlace your fingers overhead, and roll the palms up towards the ceiling. We'll move nice and slow. Go side to side for yourself. As you come to center with the hands, can you pause and lift a little bit more, like you're lifting your rib cage away from the floor? And then as you exhale and move towards the side, push up and over through the palm, ground down into that hip. Let there be a little pause there. And then as you inhale, coming back to center, reach and lift. Exhale, take it to the side, push up and over through the palm, down through the hip. Continuing that motion, breathing. Taking it nice and slow. Nice. We'll come back to center. Undo your hands, reach and lift. Take a deep breath in. And with our exhale, we'll bring one hand to the floor, reach up and over with the fingertips. Reach and lift. Nice deep breath. And maybe as you inhale, you feel the breath in your side body. You can notice the rib cage lift and expand a little more with every breath. When we do these stretches in our yoga practice, notice I'm compressing into one side of the body as I'm opening into the other side of the body. So we're compressing, we're opening, we're reclaiming space in the body where we might be holding tension that actually keeps us from circulating to our full capacity, right? So in these yoga poses, we'll reclaim space, improve circulation in the body, not only of our blood and oxygen, but also our energy. In Chinese medicine, they refer to that as qi. On our inhale, we'll come back up, reach and stretch. And with the exhale, take the other arm down, reach up and over. Breathing and noticing where the breath goes. Notice you can feel a little bit more expansion in the side body as you bring in a deep, intentional inhale. A reminder that all yoga poses are going to look different in your body than they do in my body, right? You came here for your yoga practice. So if at any time a yoga posture or a breathing technique or an idea doesn't land well with you, feel free to change it up. This is a very much a take what you need practice, and the beauty of having this be an individual practice where you're practicing in the privacy of your own home and space, you can create a yoga practice that works right for you, and you know, you're the only one that matters in this practice. On our inhale, we'll reach and lift back to center. Reach and stretch, let there be a pause, hands pressed together at the top, and we'll exhale, bring the hands down the body. Nice. And we're going to rearrange the base of our body. So take your opposite foot in front now. We'll do a little twisting flow. On our inhale, we'll lift, reach and stretch. There's a little pause at the top. With our exhale, we'll twist and bring, I'm going to bring my right hand to my left knee and look over my left shoulder. Left fingers are tapping behind me. With the inhale, I'll slowly unwind and reach back to center. With the exhale, twisting in the opposite direction, left hand to right knee, right fingertips tap, turning to look over the right shoulder. Do a couple more times each side. Inhale, reach and lift, stretch and pause at the top. Exhale. Draw the shoulder back, face and eyes turn back. Inhale, reach and lift. And exhale, twist. Inhale, lift. Exhale, twist. Good. And one final time. Inhale, reach and lift. And with the exhale, twist. Good. Reach and inhale back to center. Hands pressed together at the top. Exhale, bring them down. Nice. All right, so our first pose that is intentional for the kidney meridian is butterfly pose. So if you can, bring the soles of the feet together and let your knees fall out side to side. You can keep the blanket underneath the base of your body if that needs to happen for you. Take what you need. I'm going to remove it for myself here. Soles of the feet come together. We're going to rock ourselves side to side, just rocking and massaging into the hips and the base of our body. Notice the sit bones, the bones there at the base of your pelvis. Notice how they compress and press into the floor. We're going to bring ourselves to center and feel that grounding sensation in the sit bones. Now you can hold on softly to the ankles or to the knees. What we're looking for is a little more space in the front of the heart center, so shoulders could maybe drop back and down. Notice if you hold on to the ankles, there might be a rounding forward. So either hold on to the knees or you could even ground into all 10 fingers to the side of your body. We'll inhale and sit nice and tall. Now I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and connect with your breath here. Notice yourself slowing and deepening the inhale. Find that pause between inhale and exhale. And notice yourself releasing a complete exhale. All of the breath comes out of your body. You can hold the breath out slightly at the bottom. Breathing in an affirmation. On your inhale, I am safe. Exhale, let it land. And with every inhale, you could even say it out loud. I am safe. Notice if there's space to soften and relax into your shoulders. Notice if you are clenching the teeth together, can you soften and relax the jaw? Notice your facial expression. Could you soften the face? Soften the shoulders, your belly. And how about the inner thigh? Soften there. Good. The form of this pose, the structure of the pose, I want to remind you, it doesn't matter how far your knees are dropping towards the floor. What matters is that you're coming into this pose in a way that allows yoga to meet you where you are. And so notice yourself. If you are coming into this posture and your knees are up and you're rounded a little bit, that's okay. We all start somewhere, right? And it might not be accessible in your body today or next year or 10 years from now for your knees to go all the way down. That's okay. Wherever you are, wherever your knees fall, you're still getting the benefit of releasing into the kidney meridian that goes on the inside of the legs, in through the groin and up into the body, into the kidneys. So just rest assured, wherever you are, there you are in all your glory, breathing, affirming, I am safe. Very nice. Okay, one more deep breath. and a full exhale. So let the eyes softly open. We'll bring our knees upright. Now, I'm going to invite you to get your yoga blanket or a big towel and make a little roll for yourself. So just roll it up in a nice little roll. Depending on the availability in your body, if you need a little bit bigger roll to practice this pose, or later on if you practice again, you might roll a second blanket around it to give yourself a little bit more of a lift. So we're coming into a seated forward fold, and we're going to have this blanket roll cradle behind our knees. I'm just going to turn sideways so that you can see the formation here. And you can move the flesh away from the sit bones by scooping the flesh back towards the back of your mat, and just start to feel a sensation of grounding into the sit bones. We're gently pressing the knees down into the blanket, and we're kicking through the heels like we're trying to make the legs a little bit longer, drawing the toes up towards the knees. So find those sensations in your body. The base of our body is nice and firm and grounded. Legs are long and strong, toes are lifting up. Feel yourself lifting through the crown of the head. You notice I'm not rounding forward. And again, you could have a blanket underneath your hips to help you to be more comfortable, and you might get even a little bit better release if that needs to happen. So feel free to prop yourself in a way that needs to happen. We'll sit nice and tall, and on our inhale, we'll lift the arms up and overhead, reaching and stretching, lifting the rib cage away from the floor. Good. Pause here, breathe here. Nice. Good. One more deep breath. And on the exhale, we're going to bring ourselves forward, reaching and extending through the fingertips, and just come in just part way. Just come in and start to settle in a little bit. Notice where you feel a sensation in your body. The backs of my legs are starting to fire up. I'm feeling a little release in my hips and low back. You might be feeling it somewhere altogether different, and that's okay. That's you letting yoga meet you where you are. On an inhale, we'll lift up. Reach and stretch, create length in the body, and on the exhale, we'll reach the hands forward once more. Now watch yourself and find your edge. So you might just come right back to where you were and stop there. There might be room for you to lean forward a little bit more. When you find your edge, when you find your stopping point, then we release the hands and arms to the floor. This is an important part of this posture because we let the relaxed weight of the upper body add to the stretch for the low body. So see if you can bend your elbows. I would even invite you to turn the hands palms up to resist the urge to hold and grip and create tension all the way up the arms. Let your arms just rest heavy. And then as you find that relaxation sensation, let your shoulders release and let your head hang really heavy. Absolutely no effort in the upper body. The head is hanging heavy, the shoulders are soft, the arms are heavy, the breath is steady. And so now we'll connect to the breath, and we'll find the breath in our body now. So start to notice as you breathe in, where does the breath go in your body? Where do you feel a lift and expansion with the inhale? And then can you ride that same wave of motion on the exhale to let yourself release and surrender a little bit? Just, I like to say, let the breath move you and let the breath soothe you. So we're just hanging heavy with the upper body. You could even let your legs relax now if you're still creating some tension. Soften into the legs, soften into the upper body. Head hangs heavy, breath is steady. I let go a little bit more with every exhale. Inhaling, we feel the lift, expansion, reclaiming space, and exhaling, a release. In our yin yoga practice, we hold poses for a little bit longer than normal. A yin yoga pose can be held anywhere from 2 minutes to some of the poses can be held up to 20 minutes. For the purpose of our practice through these videos, I'm going to be holding around 2 or 3 minutes per pose. And certainly when you practice later on your own, if you're so inclined to hold the poses a little bit longer, I would say that'd be really good for you if that works for your body. So let yourself pause and breathe. Our yoga practice teaches us patience as well. And so, this talk about the kidney meridian and how it gets out of balance when we are powering through and keeping ourselves busy, especially as a way to avoid what we don't really want to face, right? And so when we're go, 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 and we get in that habit, sometimes when we come to our yoga mat, the biggest challenge is to just be still and breathe, right? We're so used to that constant activity and going from one thing to another that this invitation for stillness and to focus on the breath might seem a little foreign and it might seem a little uncomfortable. And that's okay, that's part of the practice. A couple more deep breaths here. Also, always coming out of a posture that does not feel right for your body. This is your yoga practice. All right, to come out of this pose, we start to engage the upper body. We'll reach through the fingertips, reaching and extending through the fingers, and keep the extension through the fingers and the arms. On an inhale, we'll bring ourselves slowly back up. Reach and stretch. Let there be a pause and a lift at the top. Kick through your heels. Make the legs nice and long, pressing down into the blanket with your knees. Exhale, bring the hands down the body. Nice. We'll come back into butterfly pose. You can keep the blanket close by. I'm going to say if you are healing in your knees, I'm going to offer a modification, and I'm even going to take the modification because when we keep a little bend in the knees when we're coming into a forward fold, having that soft bend in the knees helps to protect our hamstring muscles. We actually get a different, and I would even challenge a better release when we soften into the knees. And so have your little blanket roll handy there. We'll just come back into butterfly pose for a moment. Taking a deep breath in. And on the exhale, we're going to lead with the belly and the rib cage. Can you feel like you're bringing your belly button forward towards the feet? And we're going to take a little fold over the feet. Now here, instead of really pressing into the fingers or creating any kind of tension up the body, can you soften into your upper body by bending the shoulder or bending the elbows, letting your shoulders drape really heavy. You might even turn the palms up to avoid clinging and gripping. And then let your head hang really heavy. Notice where you are, feel good about where you land, letting yoga meet you where you are. I'm going to rise up, but I invite you to remain folded forward. I want to talk briefly about the stage of grief called bargaining. I think that bargaining is connected with denial because it keeps us from accepting what has actually happened, accepting our new path or this new way of living our life that can sometimes be thrust upon us without it being our own choice. Bargaining is the stage where we question, what if, or if only, what if I had visited my mom more often? These are from my own experience. If only I had been more tolerant of my mother, then our relationship would have been better. What if my mom had been diagnosed a little bit sooner? Maybe she wouldn't have had to have gone through what she went through. So all of these questioning in our mind of what if and if only, and wishing that things had been different when really all we have is right now and what has really transpired and where our path is taking us now. So I think that bargaining, when we use those what if or if only statements, those are just simply ways of us remaining in denial about what really is at this moment. So if you're wondering what bargaining is, that's it. And they say that transformation happens on the other side of surrender. And so maybe even just having a sense as you're leaning forward and relaxing in this forward fold butterfly pose of letting go. If there's anything that you're holding that's a, if only and what if, and it's also kind of connected to regret. All of these stages of grief just kind of intertwine with each other, but just starting to feel maybe a little relief and a little release. All right. Just softly draw the hands back towards your body and gently press yourself up. So we'll come to an upright position. And now another pose for the kidney meridian is what in yin yoga is called half dragonfly. In yoga, it's called Janu Sirsasana, and that translates to head to knee pose. You do not have to put your head on your knee. So that's not the point of the pose. It's just to take your head in that general direction. And I'm going to show you my favorite way to practice half dragonfly. And I'll turn it a little bit sideways so that my body will hopefully be in the full frame. We're going to bring from butterfly pose, you can just extend I'm going to extend my left leg. And I'm going to have this blanket roll to support underneath my knee to keep that little slight bend. And I'll ground into the sit bones and bring my right foot to my left thigh or thereabouts. If you need to take the foot out a little bit, so, just kind of make yourself as comfortable as possible here. Ground into the sit bones. And I'm actually going to time this with my timer. If you're interested in getting a timer, I got this on Amazon. It's a really handy little thing. So sit nice and tall. We're going to come into this similar to the way we came into that forward fold before. We're going to turn our body so that we're facing out towards the foot. On our inhale, we'll lift up, reach and stretch. And with the exhale, reaching through the fingertips, keeping the spine nice and long, we're going to lean forward. We're going to find our edge here. So notice when you start to feel the back of the leg fire up, I'm feeling it in my hamstring and up close to my glute. You might feel it somewhere else. That's where you would pause. And as you find that space, then let your hands softly find the floor. Again, maybe turning the palms up. Let your body start to drape. Let the shoulders release. Let your head relax. And we breathe, allowing the breath to move you. Noticing the inhale, the body lifts and expands a little bit. And with every exhale, we soften. Remember, this is a yin yoga practice. We don't force ourselves into any shape. This is a pose for effort instead of struggle. So notice yourself, because sometimes when we are going through difficulty and we are processing grief and we're in the thick of the mourning process, or even just holding on to something that's really far in the past, sometimes it's almost like we can be addicted to struggling, right? We can be addicted to that. This is the only way I know how to feel. So learning through your yoga practice to create a little bit of effort, a little bit of edginess, but to also be mindful if it's bearable. Can you still breathe deep and steady? Can you still keep your thoughts soft and compassionate for yourself? Can you be in a space in the pose where you're not praying for it to end or holding the breath because it hurts so bad? Take good care of yourself here. Head is dropping heavy. The breath is deep and steady. And I love the affirmation for this pose that the way I hold my body is unique to me, and I love that about myself. So maybe you close your eyes and you give yourself that a couple of times. The way I hold my body is unique, and I love that about myself. And then one more deep breath. and a full exhale. We'll extend our fingers forward, reach and stretch through the fingertips, and on an inhale, we'll reach up, lift up. Hands pressed together at the top, exhale, bring the hands down the body, please. And we'll return back into butterfly pose. So bring yourself back to butterfly pose. Rock yourself a little bit, sit nice and tall, shoulders back and down, shoulders wide, eyes closed, breathe deeply. I am safe. Every inhale, I am safe. Notice if you can relax yourself. When we come into kind of an edgy stretch, there's a tendency for us to grip in the body. So notice if you can soften your jaw, your shoulders, your belly, your inner thighs. So we're here for another breath. I am safe. And we'll open the eyes and we'll move into half dragonfly on the other side. So where you're sitting, you could just take from butterfly and extend your right leg now. I'm going to turn on my mat so that you can see my whole body. So letting the blanket roll cradle the back of your right knee. We're pressing out through the heel to make the leg a little bit longer, lifting the toes. Just drawing ourselves into this posture, left foot towards the right thigh, or thereabouts. Sit nice and tall. Inhale, reach the arms up and overhead. Feel that little pause, feel the reach and extension, and keep that extension through the fingers as you exhale. Start to bring yourself forward. You notice I'm easing in nice and slow. I'm already starting to feel the back of my leg fire up. So start to ease your way in until you find your edge. Maybe there's a definite stopping point where it's like, kind of takes your breath away. Notice that. Notice if you need to back out. This side might be very different. Maybe on the other side, you were further in towards your leg, maybe this side, not so much. So just take that for yourself. Once you find your edge, let the arms and hands rest. Let your head hang heavy. Let the breath be steady. Inhaling the affirmation. The way I hold my body is unique to me, and I love that about myself. So our practice today, as we balance the kidney meridian goes from the bottom of the foot across the arch, the inside ankle, inside of the legs, into the groin and up into the kidneys. And it also kind of traces up towards the front of the body. Connected to the kidney meridian is the urinary bladder meridian. And that meridian comes up the legs and it actually goes to the back of the body, up the back of the body. And so you notice we're getting a stretch in the leg, but we're also creating a little more space in the back body as we stretch through the low back and the hips. And so just really stimulating all of those lines of energy. The meridians have been proven to exist in the body in a scientific study. They were found to actually exist, and they are part of our cardiovascular system and part of our nervous system. It's what keeps us animated and keeps us moving. And they can hold emotions. And so bringing that intention into our practice to just to really release and soften into those areas to improve circulation, not only of blood and energy, but also of our blood and oxygen, but also of our energy. Nice deep breath. The way I hold my body is unique to me, and I love that about myself. We'll extend the fingertips forward, reach and extend through the fingertips. Keep that extension as we inhale, reach up and overhead. Exhale, hands come down the front of the body. Nice. Gather yourself back in, butterfly pose once more. Soles of the feet come together, we sit tall, reconnect with the breath. I am safe. Nice. All right, we'll open the eyes. All right, we're going to come to our hands and knees for table pose, and then we're going to be resting on our belly for a little bit. So go ahead and come to your hands and knees. If you need a little padding underneath your knees, you could take your yoga blanket or a big towel and unfold it and place that under your knees if that needs to happen. We'll be on our hands and knees. Now the knees are underneath the hips and the wrists are under the shoulders. Fingers are spread wide, and we'll just ground ourselves. Maybe take the pinky fingers to the edge of your yoga mat and start to move around a little bit. Just start to notice yourself. You don't really need to take cat-cow motion just yet. Just maybe start to move the hips a little bit. Start to notice what it feels like to really let yoga meet you where you are, where you're just moving in a way that feels good without any yoga pose in particular. No fancy pose, nothing that's even named. It's just a motion and a movement in your body that feels good. Nice. And we'll take a couple of traditional cat-cow motions. Now with cat-cow motion, cow pose, belly droops towards the floor. We lift the tailbone up. We're pressing into the hands to draw the heart forward and the shoulders back away from the ears. Take a deep breath in here. And then with the exhale, we tuck the tailbone first, round up through the back, press into the hands, arch the back. The belly draws up and the chin tucks and squeezes against the throat. Take that motion for yourself, moving to the rhythm of your breath. On the inhale, tailbone lifts, we look forward, belly droops. Exhale, tailbone tucks, and we round. So keep moving in cat-cow motion for yourself as I set up my mat for this next posture. Inhaling as the tailbone lifts, belly droops. Exhaling as the back body rounds. All right, from table pose, we're going to come on to our belly for Sphinx pose. So lower down to your belly and prop yourself up onto your elbows. Now there's a couple of variations for Sphinx pose. If you are healing in your low back, or if you have some discomfort in the low back, you might be able to counter that by squeezing the glutes and pressing the tops of the feet down into the floor, maybe even feeling all 10 toenails pressing towards the floor. The upper body, we want the elbows to be underneath the shoulders or slightly forward. So in other words, we don't want to have the elbows back behind the shoulders where we're dumping into the front of the shoulders. We want to have that out. The hands are straight out from the elbows, or if you feel a pinch in the shoulders, you can have your hands touching at center. And we're going to isometrically drag ourselves forward. So like you're pressing your hands into the floor and then drawing yourself forward to draw the heart forward. We're pressing into the elbows like we're pushing the floor away from ourselves. So notice if you're kind of dumping in and have this really short neck and the shoulders are by your ears, press into your elbows to extend yourself. Take your gaze between the hands. So rather than looking forward and kinking the back of the neck, the chin is drawn down. We're lifting through the back of the head. Now take your breath nice and deep. Can you bring the breath so low into your body that you might feel your belly press into the mat? Most of the front body is lifted off of the floor here in Sphinx pose. And so in order to feel your belly press against the floor, you'll need to bring it a little bit lower into the lungs. And just notice yourself, if that sensation isn't present in your body and you don't feel it, that's all right. You just keep showing up on your yoga mat and maybe even pretend like you can feel your belly press against the floor. Breathing. Now I'm going to offer another back bend pose, and I want to just let you know and caution you, if you are healing in your low back, if you have any type of low back or hip issues, I would recommend that you stay low, stay in Sphinx pose until we're done with this next part. If you're getting tired in Sphinx pose, you could actually come into crocodile pose where the hands cross and you rest your forehead. So if you'd like a little bit deeper back bend from Sphinx pose, we'll move into seal pose. Seal pose, the hands come out to the side of your yoga mat. So I'm stepping my hands off of my mat. They're about in line with my shoulders. Fingers are spread wide. Now I'm going to engage the low body, really squeezing into the glutes and purposefully pressing my feet into the floor here. So nice strong base of the body. On the inhale, I'll push the floor away from me to bring myself up. Again, notice shoulders aren't by the ears. Shoulders are dropped back and down with the heart lifting forward. Now the gaze is forward and the breath is deep. Now when you bring the breath into your body, if you are lifted in seal pose, you'll probably feel a pretty nice stretch in the front body, the belly and the rib cage. We lift and expand with the breath. One more deep breath, and with the exhale, we'll release. Let's rest in crocodile pose. The hands stack at the center of your mat, and we'll release the forehead to rest onto the back of the hands. Now we'll relax the low body, relax the glutes, relax your legs so that the heels fall out and the toes point softly in. And then maybe you can move your elbows out a little bit wider to release the shoulders away from the ears. And now find the breath in your body. Maybe now when you breathe, you feel your whole front body press into the floor and you can feel the lift and expansion of the back body. Notice yourself, notice that. It's safe to let go. Breathing and affirming, nice deep, slow breath. It's safe to let go. You can remain in crocodile pose for a little longer. I'm going to start to bring myself out of the posture, and I'll just invite you to maybe enjoy 2 more breath cycles here if you're practicing along with the video. Have 2 more breath cycles and then slowly bring yourself up and out of crocodile pose. And we are coming towards the end of our practice, so we're going to set ourselves up for our final resting pose. A traditional Shavasana practice is resting flat on your back with nothing under the body. Now, that being said, we want our final resting pose to be very comfortable to the way that we need it, right? So if you would like, you could have a pillow or a blanket under your head. You might take a blanket, that same blanket roll that we had, and have that to catch underneath your knees. My favorite way to practice Shavasana is with a blanket on top of my hips. And so we're going to just rest ourselves back. And there's a few alignment cues for a Shavasana practice. We want to create length in the legs, and so I'm going to kick through my heels like I'm trying to kind of unplug my legs from the hip bone, pressing through the heels to make my legs a little bit longer. And I'm going to take my feet a little bit further apart than where they naturally landed. Kicking through the heels, I'll take a deep breath here. And with the exhale, relax the legs. Feel them relax from the hip bone or hip socket all the way down. Notice the toes fall out heavy side to side. And so if you're noticing, oh, I don't know if my legs are really relaxed, you might even wiggle them a little bit and just let them start to be super heavy and relaxed. we draw the shoulders down and under. So a lot of times when we land, the shoulders are up. Tuck your shoulder blades down and under, so you're not resting on the bony part of the shoulder blade. Arms rest beside the body with the palms of the hands facing up, or if it's more soothing for you, you could rest your hands on your body. And we want the chin and the forehead to be at the same level. So notice if you landed here and the chin is jutting up, you just draw it down very gently. Close your eyes. Receive one more intentional inhale. Bring lots of breath into your body. And with your exhale, surrender to your yoga practice. Let yourself be rested. In our Shavasana practice, we surrender ourselves. There's nothing to hold, nothing to contract, nothing to control, not even the breath. So as we surrender here, notice what that feels like to not try to control anything, not trying to tighten or clench or move any part of our body. Not even trying to control the breath. You can notice the breath. There's the natural rise and fall, the soothing sensation, how your body is naturally breathed. I invite you to remain in Shavasana, remain in your final resting pose for as long as you want, as long as you are able. I'm going to begin the process of closing out our practice and ending this recording. But as I said, if you are so inclined and you are able, remain here in Shavasana. Take good care of yourself. Take your time. In our yoga practice, we have the luxury of taking our time. Just take this moment at the end of our practice to notice and appreciate the way it feels to have been intentional with ourselves. Notice what it feels like to be in your body and to feel so relaxed and at ease while being wide awake and fully aware. So grateful for the practice of yoga and for this opportunity for us to connect in this way, for us to show up for ourselves and to be curious, free from judgment, just simply curious. Where am I holding tension? Where am I holding emotion? When do I feel fearful? When do I feel anxious? When do I use the language, what if, and if only? We just start to notice that. We start to observe our thoughts. And then as those things come up for us, we know that we can always return to this way of breathing where there's a longer, deeper inhale than usual and a slower, more complete exhale than usual. Trust yourself, trust yoga, you got this. And to close our practice, bringing the hands together in front of the heart, even if you're still resting on your back in Shavasana. Bow my head to you. May the world be kind to you, and may your own thoughts be kind unto yourself. Namaste. Mm-hmm.